Welcome to the Memory and History channel. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on more videos like this one. In 1935, Elsa Lanchester became cinema's iconic Bride of Frankenstein, her electrified hair and piercing scream lasting mere minutes, but burning eternally into film history as beauty, horror, and heartbreak fused into one unforgettable moment. In Victorian Britain, a little girl cradled her black kitten, their innocence captured in faded sepia. Together they posed for eternity. Two fragile souls finding comfort in each other's gentle presence and warmth. On October 29, 1945, destroyer Maki arrived at Manila Bay to bring soldiers home. War had ended. Relief mixed with haunting memories as exhausted warriors boarded toward uncertain peace and healing. On October 10, 1940, a German Messerschmitt Bf 110 lay shattered across London streets after being shot down. The hunter became the hunted, crashing into the city it came to destroy. In 1929, Einstein and Marie Curie sat beside a quiet lake, two brilliant minds sharing rare tranquility. They had reshaped humanity's understanding of reality itself. Even legends need stillness before resuming their work. Frederick Bruce Thomas fled Mississippi's racism in the 1890s, becoming Moscow's wealthiest nightclub owner. Revolution destroyed his empire, forcing him to Istanbul. He died imprisoned, a black entrepreneur who never escaped persecution's shadow. In 1979, a Vietnamese woman guarded Chinese POWs after their invasion failed. Within 3 weeks, tens of thousands fell. Vietnam, hardened by decades of war, proved the child had grown into a warrior. In 1864, Union soldiers squatted in crude latrines, war's unglamorous reality captured without shame. History rarely shows this side. They sat together in vulnerability, proving war touches every aspect of existence, sacred and profane. Between the 1960s-70s, the British Black Panther Party rose defiantly against systemic racism. Inspired by their American counterparts, they demanded justice and equality, proving revolution recognizes no borders, only injustice waiting to fall. In the 1870s, two women posed boldly in men's tailcoats captured on glass negative, their gaze holding quiet rebellion. Society demanded corsets and submission. Yet here they stood, androgynous, confident, unapologetic, refusing confinement by gender's rules. The Russians were here. 4 words scrawled on a wall, heavy with conquest and fear. Soviet soldiers left their mark as declaration and scar. The wall remembered what people tried to forget. Empires carve into stone and memory. In 1984, Kabul, an Afghan communist revolutionary, stood draped in traditional clothing, gripping an AK-47. Ideology and heritage collided, ancient culture weaponized for modern revolution, reflecting Afghanistan's endless paradox where tradition and transformation violently intersect. In 1889, the Eiffel Tower rose skeletal above Paris. Critics called it a grotesque iron monster. Yet Gustave Eiffel's vision climbed higher each day, building what would become France's eternal symbol. What Paris despised, the world would adore. In 1900, Western Australia, an Aboriginal child stood shackled in chains, stolen from family and enslaved. This photograph remains a devastating testament to Australia's buried shame. Generations stolen, childhoods murdered, and injustice disguised as civilization's brutal progress. In December 1941, the Red Army launched its fierce counteroffensive near Moscow. Hitler's Wehrmacht suddenly recoiled. Soviet soldiers, hardened by cold and desperation, pushed back. Snow turned red with blood, and Germany began learning the cost of underestimating Russian resolve. In 1960, Rotterdam rose from earth and ambition, concrete reshaping the landscape. Workers labored under a relentless sun, building infrastructure for a nation's future. Progress demanded sacrifice, land submerged, communities displaced. The dam stood as monument to human engineering's quiet violence. In 1944, a British officer stood before Salonika's desecrated Jewish cemetery, gravestones shattered like broken prayers. The Nazis had erased a community. He looked upon destruction that words couldn't capture, history deliberately murdered, souls denied even the dignity of rest. Sterling Hayden stood fierce and tortured in Naked Alibi, his presence commanding every frame. The film noir icon embodied raw masculinity and moral ambiguity, a man haunted by darkness. Hayden didn't just act, he bled authenticity, transforming cinema into lived truth. In 1955, Jane Mansfield dazzled as Miss Hollywood star for the baseball team, her smile bright as camera flashes. She was Hollywood's bombshell, stunning in promotional photos. Stardom required performance everywhere, even dugouts, and Mansfield played her role flawlessly. In Dereham, Norfolk, time moved slowly through cobblestone streets and weathered buildings. The English countryside held its history close, every brick whispering stories of generations past. Market towns like this carried England's quiet soul, unchanged, unhurried, enduring. Two Choctaw ancestors from Michael Jackson's paternal lineage stared into history, their indigenous heritage often forgotten beneath stardom's glare. Before moonwalks and Thriller, his bloodline carried native resilience. The king of pop descended from warriors, roots deeper than fame. In Chamberlain Square, Birmingham's heart beat through Victorian architecture and bustling pavements. Statues stood sentinel over generations, while church spires watched industrial England transform. The square witnessed empire, war, and rebirth, forever balancing heritage with progress and change. In August 1944, Japanese soldiers celebrated atop a captured locomotive at Hengyang Railway Station. Victory tasted sweet after brutal combat. They raised flags on conquered steel, unaware the war's tide was turning. That moment of triumph would fade like smoke. In January 1945, a sad girl stood beside Battersea's ruins, a British flag fluttering defiantly above the rubble. German bombs had shattered her world, home now debris. Yet the flag still flew. Her small frame carried a nation's exhaustion and resilience. Around 1900, a soiled dove displayed her finest dress in Jerome, Arizona's dusty streets. She was a prostitute in a mining town where survival wore silk and scandal. Her finery masked harsh realities, a woman selling what society condemned yet secretly consumed. In 1956, John Wayne welcomed Jane Mansfield at a Fox party celebrating her leap from Broadway to Hollywood. Two icons stood together, the Duke's rugged masculinity beside Mansfield's bombshell glamour. Hollywood opened its glittering doors. She smiled brilliantly, unaware fame's spotlight burns. In 1901, King Abdulaziz stood ready in Kuwait, preparing to reclaim Riyadh from exile. His kingdom had been lost, but his determination burned fiercer than desert sun. The young warrior gathered allies for the audacious raid that would birth Saudi Arabia. In 1900, St. Mary's Orphan Asylum stood before Galveston's Category 4 hurricane, struck with apocalyptic fury. 10 Sisters of Charity and 90 children perished as water swallowed everything. The building that promised shelter became a tomb, and tragedy was written in children's names. In 1939, Margaret Hamilton transformed into the Wicked Witch of the West, her green face and cackling voice haunting generations. Behind terrifying makeup lived a gentle actress, crafting cinema's most iconic villain. Her performance was wickedness perfected, proof that nightmares come dressed in emerald spite. In 1902, Aleister Crowley climbed K2, seeking heights beyond human reach. 2 years later, he claimed Egyptian god Horus revealed Thelema's dark gospel to him. Do what thou wilt became his creed. Crowley became the 20th century's most infamous occultist. On October 28, 1925, Tutankhamun's remains were finally revealed in the Valley of the Kings. 3,000 years of darkness lifted as archaeologists gazed upon the boy pharaoh's golden face. Ancient Egypt breathed again, proving death cannot silence kings. In 1872, London, 2 young thieves stood shackled on Old Street, their crime punished with public humiliation. Childhood and poverty had driven them to steal. Victorian justice answered with iron chains. Society labeled them criminals, but desperation wrote their story differently. In April 1865, the Sultana carried 2,400 Union soldiers home from war, overcrowded and dangerously overloaded. At 2 a.m., its boilers exploded with hellish fury. Around 1,860 perished. America's deadliest maritime disaster, forgotten beneath war's end. Freedom vanished in smoke and screams. In 1920, a patient sat miserable after visiting the dentist, their face twisted in pain. Dentistry then was brutal, limited anesthesia, crude tools, and unimaginable agony. The photograph captured universal dread, mouth throbbing, dignity shattered, and horrible certainty they'd return again. In the 1890s, a Zanzibari woman posed for her portrait, her gaze steady and dignified. Colonial cameras captured her image, but couldn't capture her story. She lived through empire's reach, her identity preserved yet stolen simultaneously. History remembers her face, but forgot her name. 2,000 years ago, a Thracian warrior was buried with his chariot and horses, frozen in death's eternal journey. Time consumed flesh, but preserved bone and bronze. Archaeologists uncovered a glimpse into ancient rituals where loyalty transcended mortality, and horses accompanied their master into the afterlife. Near Dodge City, an abandoned farmhouse stood sentinel over Kansas plains, weathered by decades of wind and forgotten dreams. Families once laughed inside those walls. Time erased their names but left the structure standing, a haunting monument to hope that withered and prairie that reclaimed everything. In 1979, Paul Slattery captured Susie and the Banshees in their raw, defiant glory. Susie Sue stared fearlessly into the lens, dark makeup and punk attitude radiating rebellion. They embodied post-punk's fierce spirit, music as warfare against conformity and youth screaming against everything before. In 1940s California, Margaret Gibb received a tender kiss from her fiancé, while her conjoined twin Mary watched quietly beside her. Love found its way despite extraordinary circumstances, a testament to resilience, intimacy, and the unbreakable bond between sisters navigating life together. In 1893, the Hawaiian kingdom fell as foreign forces seized power, ending centuries of sovereignty. A century later, in 1993, the United States formally apologized for its role in the overthrow, acknowledging a painful wound that forever altered the Hawaiian people. In 1913, a solemn funeral procession moved through Surp Agop Cemetery in Istanbul. Mourners walked in silence, carrying grief and tradition through ancient grounds. It was a moment frozen in time, where loss united a community bound by faith, memory, and shared sorrow. Between 1975 and 1978, photographer Francesca Woodman captured herself in haunting motion and shadow. Her untitled work blurred the line between presence and absence, body and ghost. Each frame whispered questions of identity, vulnerability, and the fragile boundary between being seen and disappearing. During the Battle of Shanghai, a Japanese wartime photograph captured the skull of a fallen Chinese soldier. It was a stark, haunting reminder of war's brutality, where human life became reduced to bone and dust, and individual stories vanished beneath conflict's merciless advance. On the Greek-Albanian front between 1940-41, Infantrymen of the 232nd Avellino Regiment endured harsh mountain warfare. Cold, mud, and uncertainty defined their days. They stood together in a brutal theater of war, far from home, bound by duty and survival against unforgiving terrain. In 1967, Princess Grace of Monaco cradled her young son Albert with quiet elegance. The camera captured a mother's tender gaze, a fleeting moment of warmth behind palace walls. Royalty softened into humanity, where crowns meant nothing compared to the gentle bond between mother and child. Between 1957 and 1971, Edward Paisnell, known as the Beast of Jersey, terrorized victims while wearing grotesque masks. This chilling relic of horror became a symbol of darkness that haunted an island for years. Behind the mask lurked cruelty, fear, and the monstrous depths of human evil. The Petrus and Paulus Church stood in Ostende, Belgium, a monument of faith and architecture. Its towering spires reached toward the heavens, watching over the coastal city through storms and peace. Stone and prayer converged where generations sought solace, hope, and spiritual refuge. In July 1934, Italian planes gathered in Udine following the assassination of Austrian Chancellor Engelbert Dollfuss. Tensions soared as Europe braced for potential German invasion. Engines hummed with anticipation, pilots waited on alert, and the shadow of greater conflict loomed over a continent teetering on chaos. A Taiwanese grandfather and grandmother posed joyfully in abandoned clothes at a laundrette, their faces bright with laughter and mischief. They reminded the world that age is merely a number, that playfulness never fades, and that spirit, not years, defines how vibrantly we live. The wolfman emerged from shadow and folklore, a creature trapped between human and beast. Cursed by the full moon, he roamed with tortured soul and savage instinct. His howl echoed through dark forests, a haunting cry of agony, rage, and the monster lurking within every man. In 1895, during Ottoman persecution, Haji Aga stood firm at the Armenian hospital gates after returning from Mecca. He refused entry to Turkish pogromists, risking his own life to shield the innocent. One man's courage became a fragile wall between compassion and massacre. Across 19th century Black America, life unfolded in resilience and defiance. From fields to churches, from family gatherings to quiet resistance, communities built strength amid oppression. Each face carried stories of survival, dignity, and hope. Proof that humanity's spirit refused to be broken or erased. Queen Rasoherina ruled Madagascar with wisdom and strength, earning the respect of her people. She navigated politics with grace, defended her kingdom's sovereignty, and championed her nation during turbulent times. History remembers her as the good queen who led with justice, courage, and compassion. In the late 1890s, a group of ladies gathered for a cabinet card portrait, joking and eating platano together. Laughter froze in sepia tones, capturing friendship, warmth, and unguarded joy. Behind Victorian propriety lived real women sharing simple pleasures, their smiles echoing across time. Through the centuries, Black women carried the weight of history on their shoulders while nurturing families, communities, and futures. From slavery's chains to civil rights, from cotton fields to classrooms, their strength shaped nations. Each photograph holds stories of survival, grace, resistance, and unbreakable spirit. Lida Gustava Hayman stood boldly against patriarchy and war in Germany, her voice rising when silence was expected. A fierce feminist and pacifist, she challenged systems of oppression with unwavering conviction. Her legacy lives in those who refuse to accept injustice, inequality, and violence. In 1905, a parlor house stood in Butte, Montana, where women worked in the shadows of a booming mining town. Behind painted faces and velvet curtains lived stories of survival, desperation, and resilience. It was a world where societal judgment met human necessity, and dignity persisted. In the 1870s, This exquisite dress showcased the era's craftsmanship, with its delicate ruffles and intricate details. Each layer of fabric told a story of elegance, skill, and feminine beauty. It was a masterpiece of Victorian fashion, where artistry transformed cloth into wearable poetry. In 1946, German dentist Martin Hellinger stood before a British military tribunal, sentenced to 15 years for extracting dental gold from concentration camp victims. His crime embodied the grotesque depths of wartime inhumanity. Decades later, West Germany compensated him, a bitter footnote to justice. On May 4th, 1945, near Munich, hundreds of German soldiers surrendered without resistance to just a few American guards. The long procession moved quietly, defeat etched into weary faces. The war was ending, and illusions of invincibility crumbled into exhaustion, acceptance, and uncertain futures. In early 1900s, New Athens, Ohio, a husband and wife posed formally before photographer Joseph E. Williams. Their expressions remained calm and composed, faces frozen in sepia dignity. Behind Victorian restraint lived unspoken stories of partnership, hardship, and quiet devotion, a marriage captured in stillness. In 1980, John Lennon walked through New York's Village Halloween Parade, blending into the masked crowd with playful anonymity. For a fleeting night, the legend became just another face in costume, seeking simple joy. Months later, that joyful spirit would be silenced forever by tragedy. In occupied China during the late 1930s and early 1940s, Japanese soldiers waited outside a comfort station. Behind this mundane scene existed one of war's darkest chapters, systematic sexual slavery masked by euphemism. Thousands of women suffered unimaginable trauma, their voices silenced for decades. Around 1860, St. Augustine stood as America's oldest city, its streets carrying centuries of Spanish colonial history. Ancient stone fortresses watched over cobbled paths where cultures collided and converged. Time moved slowly through weathered walls and shadows, preserving stories of conquest, survival, and complexity. In early 1900s, Wisconsin, a family rode together in their wagon across open countryside. Wooden wheels creaked rhythmically as horses pulled them forward under wide skies. Simple journeys bound generations together, fathers, mothers, children sharing wind, earth, and the quiet contentment of movement through a vast world. Around 1858, photographer Felice Beato captured Sikh sappers of the Indian Army, standing with disciplined pride. Their turbans and beards spoke of faith and tradition, while their military bearing reflected skill and courage. These engineers of war served empires far from home, their strength immortalized in early photography. In 1889, American journalist Nellie Bly posed for a publicity photograph before her daring around-the-world voyage. Her eyes held determination and fearless ambition. She would race against fiction and time itself, proving that a woman could conquer distance, doubt, and convention with courage and resolve. In 19th century England, desperate workers paid a penny to sleep slumped over ropes in innkeeper drying-out rooms. Seamen and laborers, too poor for beds, hung exhausted after brutal shifts and freezing nights. It was shelter barely deserving the name, a cruel reminder of poverty's grip and humanity's endurance. In 1920, Varanasi, a yogi demonstrated extraordinary physical mastery, his foot resting effortlessly over his shoulder. Decades of discipline and spiritual practice were embodied in this single, impossible pose. Along the Ganges, where body and soul converged, he represented the ancient pursuit of transcendence through control and devotion.